Hi, it's Sayje.
And I'm DeShawn. And this is
Unbinding the Binary. And on this show, we get a little transparent about all things from a queer perspective.
On today's show, we are talking about the Don't Say Gay bill, Disney, and all those things that's been going on and all of that. So we figured we have to have a chit chat.
Yeah, it's time to talk about it. It's definitely not only a hot topic, but something that's near and dear to our hearts. And
yeah, because we love Disney, so we got some feelings.
we have some feelings.
So sit back and let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
How have you been?
I've been pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. What's new? 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, I just came back from Miami. So it was nice to get away and spend some time on the beach by the ocean, my favorite place. Mm-hmm. Just in the sunshine and relax, catch up with friends.
Lucky you, honey. I saw you on Instagram frolicking in the clear waters of Miami. Jealous. Word. How long? You said you were down there for how long?
For like 5 days.
Oh, cute.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Anything super exciting to happen?
It's just always a vibe when I go there. I always like to visit a different area of Miami. So this time I stayed close to the design districts.
Oh, nice. There's a design district, like fashion design?
So they in the portion of the design district that I was walking through with my friends, it's just nothing but like high-end brand stores. But even the way that the stores are positioned and the architecture is just beautiful. Like just the way that it's. I couldn't right now at this time, not never, but at this time I can't really afford a whole lot in any of those stores. But it just was beautiful the way that it was set up. Because here in New York City, when you walk Fifth Avenue, it's like this long avenue of stores and the strips, and everything kind of starts to look the same. But the way that their buildings were placed and painted and the colors was just so like it's like literally the architecture is so modern, but it's romantic in a sense. Like it's beauty just spilling over.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I've only been to Miami once. And I stayed near the beach. I was like, I was there for work, so I did like the strip like one night after work. And then we rode around, and I do remember there was this like one long bridge that took you over to like, this is where all the expensive stuff is, and then this is where like everything else is. But I wish I would have saw all of that. That sounds so dope.
Yeah. It's because like New York City and the way that we think about the 5 boroughs and how each borough has its own vibration and different things to offer.
So true.
I think a lot of the major cities have that, and so yeah, every time I go to Miami, I like to see a different area, and that was definitely a little bit of a highlight. Yeah, a little bit of a highlight. Cute. But how have you been?
I've been all right, trying to maintain in a good old New York. Lots of changes happening as always. I feel like since the fall of last year, the constant change in my life has just been like rolling along, and I'm like very much looking forward to a like settling place where it's like, okay, here we are, and this is what I'm my what's it called, my routine, if you will, that's kind of set in place. I'm a creature of routine. Even if it is a crazy routine, it's still, if it's like a routine, I'm like into it. But if it's not, I'm like, I feel like every time I get a moment of like, okay, then it's like, here comes something else, and it,
yeah,
which is, and none of it is like bad things by any means. They're all good things. It's just like, oh my God, okay, great.
When is it going to seem to settle, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the astrologers are saying right now that this is the time where we are starting to build. I mean, I don't want to say build back, but yeah, we are. We're starting to put a lot of the missing pieces back into perspective, right? So if during the quarantine of COVID and everything, if everything broke down, and then individually for us, our routines, kind of went kaput, then this is the time of us, building it back and figuring out what we really want, where we really want to be. I know that's definitely something that's been really present in my life is, where do I see myself, like in the next couple of months. I don't think that it's New York City, so we're gonna see. It's exciting. Yeah. I'm really excited about all of the changes that are occurring. The positive changes, of course, there are some scary ones. Now with the war, like we're basically, barking up the tree of war times, right. And so there's also this shroud of darkness and uncertainty that's definitely brewing, but internally I am looking up at blue skies. I feel that. Yeah, so I'm very on brand. If that's what the astrologers are saying, that's very much on brand, okay? Because I'm like definitely feel like I've been putting back the pieces. Sometimes I do feel a little pressure about that because my life before COVID was so fast paced and I was doing so much, and I told myself that I would not go back to that, but I'm finding myself back in that, so I'm trying to like regulate it a little bit. But I get that. I'm definitely, like I said, on brand. On brand. So I just got to continue to work on that. And there's been a lot of calls. And I don't necessarily mean phone calls, but just like calls of purpose and doing like similar work that we're doing here, with Unbinding.the.binary. And the 15th, so like after Valentine's Day, I was asked to come back to my high school and speak to the GSA there about, just my experience as a trans woman, and they asked a lot of questions geared toward identity, and how I dealt with it as a high school student, and then now in the present, and where we are. So it's so interesting that we're gonna discuss the Don't Say Gay bill today, right. Because I myself have been placed in positions front and center where I find that the youth, are really looking for answers. They're really looking for answers as much as we would think as the adults, right? Or the millennials, as they like to call us, that we would look at Gen Z and think, oh, okay, they have all these resources. They have TikTok, they have this, they have that, they have this show, they have Unbinding.the.binary, right? But there is nothing like having role models present in your life. And being able to show you firsthand or tell you, what what this experience is like. Right. So
just to clarify too, what is GSA?
The Gay Student Alliance.
Word.
Which we did not have while I, was in high school.
Yeah.
I went to a performing arts high school in the Bronx, for those of you out there who are watching who, obviously don't know, but and I was out in high school, of course, as a completely different gender and name, but we didn't have a Gay Student Alliance, and if I'm not mistaken, the principal was telling me that the group is actually more so geared toward like gender and sexuality alliance, because again, the discussion. The umbrella of the discussion has opened up so much. Right. So I think it's not just that. And a lot of those high school students, they had questions about transitioning, about pronouns, about how to choose, a name, and they are seeking, they are searching, and maybe their parents, are not as accepting as we would hope for them to be. So school is a safe place for them. Socially, emotionally, and academically. Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
And
we're going to get deep into that because that's yeah. So we'll be back.
We'll be back.
The Oracle Shop is a metaphysical boutique located in the heart of Bushwick, Brooklyn. This shop features beautiful and energizing products for the home, body, and soul, including crystals and minerals, as well as ceremonial and spiritual cleansing supplies, jewelry, oracle cards, tarot cards, books, candles, and more. Come visit us at the Oracle Shop, located at 164 Wilson, Brooklyn, New York, 11237.
And we're back.
We're here.
So before we get started, I just want to clarify what the Don't Say Gay bill actually is. So the term "Don't Say Gay," as we have been told in the media, it seems like it's more of a people's choice term, if you will, just to kind of like say what the bill is. But
that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, but the bill is actually titled the Parental Rights in Education Bill. And it states that lessons about sexual orientation are banned outright in kindergarten through the 3rd grade. It also prohibits lessons in other grades unless they are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. So that is what the bill is actually about. Yeah, you could speak on that because I have things.
Right, and so when it's outlined that way, it doesn't seem immediately harmful. Do you agree or not agree? Right.
Yeah.
When it's outlined that way, it doesn't seem immediately harmful. And so it's interesting how the media, social media, like they will just throw out these headlines, right? And unfortunately, lawmakers, state government officials, they run with that. You know? Instead of actually talking about the matter at hand, and the structure of it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree. So my first introduction to this bill was the same way, through social media. So I'm getting all this information. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And I actually was talking to Juan about this earlier because I'm saying, even if I like gay, straight, or whatever, me personally, I would prefer for my child to just be a child, like not necessarily be taught anything about like, you know, sexual anything. But what he said to me, which actually was very interesting, he said, well, even thinking like cartoons are heterosexual off rip. When the prince saves the princess and he kisses her or whatever and all that kind of stuff, like that's still there for those kids also. And so it is about introducing these things in a way that is just like a part of society, just like it is. Yeah. Which is a very good point. I understand. As again, I'm always like, you know, like okay, I always try to see both sides.
Where on the fence are we? Yeah, no, exactly. No, me too. Because
I do understand the point of what they mean, but I think that the problem is that they're so specifically targeting our community that it feels it not even feels, it is very direct. Like, no, yeah, we can show Aladdin and Jasmine kissing, we can show, you know, Snow White, this and that, and hugging and whatever else, but we can't have, you know,
Adam and Steve,
right?
You know, right. Walking around the Eden,
right?
And it's like, and then when you do see that, it's immediate. Oh, there's an agenda.
Right.
There's an agenda. I'm trying to, you know, you're trying to brainwash my kids, or you're trying to brainwash me, instead of viewing it from the standpoint of visibility,
right,
and understanding and understanding that there's an entire community of people, you know, in our generation, who didn't see themselves and their stories and their identities reflected in art, in the media, in anything.
Right.
So it left so much of a gap and room for you to then learn about yourself, you know?
not very good ways.
In not very good ways.
Yeah,
and a lot of trial and error and a lot of pain and a lot of turmoil and a lot of, it just was not the easiest of routes, for a lot of us. And even though, okay, so we're talking about animation in particular, right? Because usually animation is an art form or media form that is geared toward children. Even though it's not immediately supposed to be educational, we do, yes, I agree. We do absorb information, feelings, from these characters that we see on television. But I think to limit it or to not have it at all is not moving in inclusivity.
Of course. Well, that's the thing, is that it's not, they don't want that. You know what I mean? A lot of people who, I feel like it's obvious that a lot of people who are making these laws and these things don't know what it feels like to be us, and it's not trying to know what it feels like to be us, because they don't want us to be seen, because they feel like we are, you said, have an agenda and we're putting this on kids and we're making kids gay and yada 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 yada. And it's like,
hello?
How many of us didn't have any of this?
I didn't have it, so I didn't have an agenda. Like, there was no agenda given to me.
Right,
like,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So how did this generation come to be?
Right.
Where was the agenda that was given to us?
Let's just be real. I'm pretty sure that, like, queerness didn't start with us. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it's more visible with us. But
also, y'all took those out the hieroglyphics. y'all painted over it with black. Okay,
right, that part. But no, there's the pictures of all kind of, especially between two women. If you want to be real, if we're gonna like go there briefly, like the Kama Sutra was all about women teaching women how to. Yeah, there are like in a lot of the older drawings and like Kama Sutra drawings, women. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I'm pretty sure that what happened was that the older women would take the younger women and they would teach them through the Kama Sutra how to have pleasure, like, and how to have sex, and like teach them all this stuff and treat. Yeah.
But you see, that's more what we say, like an Eastern right philosophy of understanding intimacy and sex. Where here, like we were talking about earlier, it's like, oh, my boy, my son, he lost his virginity. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas, my daughter, she's not having sex until she's married. And then even then, I don't want to know about it.
Right.
And then in her marriage, it's like, her position is to be subservient and submissive to this man. And that's her whole channel of pleasure, sexuality, all of those things.
Right.
So it's so limiting here in the Western world, where it's more of possibly, a Eurocentric mentality of what pleasure, should be like for that of the feminine spectrum, which is to be, submissive, pleasing to a man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate. And I think that in teaching, like, age appropriate is obviously key. You know what I mean? Like, I do see where that's important, because as children, you have a lot of questions. You have a lot of things. You're exposed to so much. Your mind is curious. So to curate a curriculum that includes, LGBT, Q, everything else, to help kids is important. Now, should children be talking about sex and all of that? Absolutely not. No. You don't need to know any of the inner workings of sex until your body starts to express itself that way, and you need help to understand what's going on.
Which is why we could think back to middle school, you start getting sex ed in I think it's like the 6th or 7th grade or somewhere around there.
I started sex ed in the 5th grade.
See, and it may depend on Cleveland. So here in New York City, I think it was in like I think it might have been like 6th or 7th grade. I could be wrong. That whole time period is like a little bit for me.
I remember my the second half of 5th grade. We started, and we had to have permission slips and everything like that. I remember watching a birth on video and all that other kind of stuff. And then we had egg babies that we had to take care of. And I wanted fraternal twins so bad, and I ended up getting them. So I had a boy girl and a boy egg and a girl egg, quote unquote. Yeah, but that was in the 5th grade.
Were they color? Were they blue and pink?
Stop it. No. The eggs were just no. The eggs were just eggs. Just eggs. Okay. Were they blue or pink? No. God, can you imagine?
Because we would have talked about that.
They probably, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere, somehow, that somebody probably did dye eggs, because that was the normal thing, but no, they were just eggs. But that was in the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting, because puberty is different for anyone. I started puberty early. I was 8. I was actually in the 3rd grade when I started puberty. So a lot of questions, and obviously, my exposure to things was different. So I had a lot of questions about a lot of things because I was just aware of so much at that age.
How did your parents, if they did your parents talk to you about sex? Like, what was that like? If you don't want to go into
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. My stepdad and I had the talk about my body and everything, what was going on. I do remember that, and him and I talking about that. As far as sex was concerned, because I had been exposed to sex at such an early age, and I know they knew that, and then their history with church and sex and all that stuff, it was very much abstinence, celibacy, you don't have sex till you get married. In fact, I remember the quote, no wed, no bed, no ring, nothing.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I ain't never heard that before.
It was a church thing.
I get it, but I've never heard that before.
But that was, and I was a kid. I was a kid, and it was a rap. This pastor came, and it was no wed, no bed, no ring, nothing. Yeah, it was a whole...
Ain't nothing going on with the ring.
Right?
That's where I'm at.
But that definitely, look, I'm 38 years old, and I still remember that from 7, 8, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so, they definitely, and the thing, but I was so, it would have been nice if my parents could have just been more based in a reality about the tangible things that were going on with me and everything, where we could have had real honest conversations, as opposed to the fear that was put on sex and all of the religion and everything that was put on sex, so much so that when I got into my older life and started to experience things, I had to learn and navigate so much and still in some ways, navigating things. And it's just very interesting how much I would have benefit, how much of a benefit it would have been to actually learn from my parents, not learn from my parents, but able to come to them and have actual real honest conversations. Sex is uncomfortable for anybody to talk about with a kid, period. You know what I mean? Your child...
It's how do you...
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there are ways to have age-appropriate conversations and engage in things if your child has questions. You know what I'm saying? There just is. There's certain things you be that's not for you right now. But, we just have to figure that out, I guess.
My mom actually gave me a book.
Really?
She gave me it was, an age-appropriate book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly what age it was, but she gave me a book. And she said, this book is about sex. I'm going to give this to you because I don't really know how to talk to you about it. And what I want you to do is read the book, look at the book, and if you have questions after that, then you come to me.
Interesting.
And so the book...
it so
worked. I guess so. In her own way, And so I kind of was like, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I kind of started a little early too. I think the book came before I started. I think so.
Okay.
But at least I wasn't going into it blindly, or fearful. So there are definitely ways out there to explain to your child,
Do you think that it's like in relation to like the Don't Say Gay bill, do you think it's up to the school, the education system to introduce these or have these conversations, or should there strictly be a conversation between a child and parents?
I think that it's both. I think because the old adage of it takes a village to raise a child is very tried and true, you know? Because you don't know what a child is getting at home. You know what I'm saying? So I think to place all of that weight on the parents is a little, depending on obviously the age and the grade, is a little lacking in responsibility for the education system. I think so, because I mean, let's be bold about it. Like, when it comes to the prevention of sexually transmitted diseases,
right,
I think that it is definitely the school's responsibility to begin to explain to children preventative measures, not even just STDs, but contraceptives, you know, like how children come into the world and the importance of, if you're not ready for that, here are the steps that you need to take, you know, in order to prevent you from having a child before perhaps you are ready. And that includes a discussion of abstinence.
Right, yeah.
It's just not abstinence in terms of you need to be ashamed of sex or fearful of sex, but you're not ready for that right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think that should solely come from the household. I think it has to come from both places. Because, again, some children may not feel comfortable with going to their parents, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It's just how it is. People come from different environments, from different family structures. Some families are more, you know, huggy kissy, you know, really affectionate, and some families are more like, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about this, or there's love there, but we show love differently.
Right.
So if they show love differently, they teach differently.
I think as you were talking, I realized that there has to be a societal agreement where the same way that we have all agreed that, child, I don't know nothing about math, go ask your teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like long division, I you know what I'm saying? So we would have to treat sex education and, you know, which includes gender studies and other kind of stuff, as a societal agreement that says, at home, I'm here, but also you have these avenues in school. Because, like, I could tell you I know for a 100% fact that if teaching, you know, about queer people, gender, you know, all that other kind of stuff in a that was not heterosexual, obviously, and my parents knew about it and I was a kid, it would be a no. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even let that conversation. They would be like, "Oh no." In fact, I even remember, you know, having a therapist when I was 14, and him mentioning about people being born gay, and that was the last session I had. My parents shut that down immediately.
They said no.
Yeah, nope. So, and that was that. And so so there has to be this agreement with everyone, but I think we're still working, honestly, and I don't know whose responsibility this falls on, but I feel like we're still working on our own representation in the media.
Yes.
And I've said it before that, you know, our community sometimes in the public is just so over sexualized that anybody outside of our community
thinks that's all in what it is. And also, I think because we have not consistently been given platforms to tell our truth, to tell our story, that every time we do get in front of a camera or a microphone, it has to be this educational moment to where, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, I'm in activism all the time.
Right. And that's exhausting.
It's exhausting, and that's why sometimes, to be quite frank, I don't want to have the conversation. I don't want to discuss my gender all the time because I'm just in a state of being.
Right.
You know? And we need to allow people of queer, trans, non-binary, black, indigenous to remain in a state of being. And we have been controlled and modified and erased and rewritten for so long that we never have we're never allowed that opportunity in, you know, a lot of spaces to just be and just exist. And I'm just here, another spirit in a human form, in a human body, having a spiritual experience like everybody else.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Right.
You know, so
right.
it's unfortunate that we are still here in 2022. God forbid, you know, in the midst of another world war, and we still cannot get these things right. We're still here discussing whether or not we should be talking about sex and identity in school.
Right.
When this is what children, you know, this is the things that, especially now, because it's been hidden for so long, that they have questions about. You know, they have questions about these things, and it's not, I don't think that it's all the adults are making the decisions, and
we have all the wrong adults.
The wrong adults.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
We have people in place who are so pigeonholed in what they know, what they've been taught, that they're not willing to even listen to anyone outside of that understanding. And it's like, all you need to do is have a simple conversation, and you will discover so much more, and you'll be so much more open to being like, wow, I never knew about this kind of perspective or this kind of thing. Wow, let me think about that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so important for us to talk.
What you said a few moments ago about, you know, the ways that we have been showing up in the media or what have you, and, you know, the over-sexualization and in a way like feeding into the stereotype. That's why I think that it's so important now for us, you know, as the generation that we're in, to structure these conversations or these curriculums, if you will, in a way that is clearly, by definition, educational and not based upon your opinion. You know what I mean? Because I know a few years ago they were like, you know, like polls going around of what we think the school would look like if they started to teach LGBTQ history in, you know, in I guess like middle schools and high schools and things like that. And I was like, yeah, like I wish I knew, you know, about Stonewall and all of these things. And that's not the only thing, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? But there's so much more. There's so many more important figures in our history that I think we need to be aware of. But it's hard to even go there in our minds when we know that there aren't, Black history hasn't even been, you know, really told the way that it should be in public schools, in all places around the United States, you know? So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in this. I'm just tired. Like, I just want, like,
Sometimes, especially now with the way everything is going on, and I understand that I have the privilege to tap out, and I deal with that because I feel guilty about it. Like, I need to know what's going on. I feel bad that I need to take a break. But it makes me just think about how much further we still have to go. Even though, and it's like, I grew up, you know, even with the sheltered as I was growing up, I still grew up with a very open vision of the world. I have friends of all different kind of cultures and stuff like that. So, and I was always curious about everybody else's, you know, life. So I didn't go into my adulthood with this, like, you know, completely lost view on the world. But I just think, like, I just wish we all just had that. Like, I just don't understand, like, a lot of the stuff that's going on.
Stop it. Like, just there's so many beautiful people, and ways of being, you know, that are out there that just need to be celebrated and honored.
Yeah.
You know,
we have so much more to go and grow. And I thought we were there. I thought to some degree things were somewhere, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is a thing?
But I think that this is part of the last hurrah, you know, because so I'll get into what I want to say, but let's get into the it's not don't say gay bill, but
the parental rights in
education bill, right? So it states that if a child, what does it say? It comes
it states that lessons about sexual orientation are banned outright in kindergarten through the 3rd grade. And it also prohibits lessons in other grades unless they are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate.
Now, wasn't there another portion that says something about if a student comes out to a teacher, that the teacher has to report the child's orientation
there probably
to the
is.
parents within like 6 weeks, and if the teacher doesn't report the finding in the 6 weeks, they could be like subject to termination.
Are you serious?
Yes. Again, social media, forgive me if I'm wrong, just allegedly, okay? We're going to say allegedly. But I believe that's what it said.
Students have power. We'll take a break and we're going to read up on that a little bit more to find out, because I definitely want to talk about that, because I have a lot to say about that, 100%, for sure. So,
we'll be back. Right back.
The Fine Print by 2-time Glam award-winning artists, the Dragon Sisters. Available now.
Hey, guess what I do? It's my job.
Side to side, anything you want that cookie provide. Edible arrangement, coconut side.
Islaya, it's in the name. The new single by Islaya, available now for download on Spotify. Monochrome Colors, the new single from Leone, available now everywhere music is streamed.
We're back from our little break.
And so, just to clarify, we were talking about right before the break, there was a law about teachers being, there was a part of the Don't Say Gay bill that allowed teachers to out students, right? So we did quick little research and discovered that
Google.
yes, thank you. And that has been amended. So it says, an amendment to the Florida so-called Don't Say Gay bill that would require schools to out LGBTQ students to their parents, even if that could lead to abuse and abandonment or neglect, has been withdrawn by the bill's sponsor. And then it says that the state representative Joe Harding, a Republican, said on Tuesday that the amendment was not about outing a student. However, instead of battling misinformation related to his amendment, he said he decided to focus on the primary bill that empowers parents to be engaging in their children's lives. So, so that has been amended. We got clarity.
We got clarity on that.
Yeah, which is good, because
and again, so the media, that's what's in the headlines, literally all over the place. So
interesting. It's the love-hate relationship with the media, where it empowers, but the slight little moment of a headline that can run with that clickbait, and a lot of people don't take the time to actually read, and then you get all these people riled up online and not actually having discussions about the things so that you can get better clarity, and hopefully clarity across the board. It's like, in a way, it almost causes confusion and chaos, but anyway.
And also, just to speak on it, that doesn't even necessarily have to be a law, okay? Because you already have school principals, staff members, and things like that who have been doing those sorts of things. Like seeing same-sex, kids, whatever, in the hallways kissing, and then they make a phone call home of like, oh, I just to let you know, so-and-so and, so-and-so were making out in the hallways. And then, boom, you're outing these children before they even got the chance to have these conversations with their parents themselves. So there actually should be a law against that.
Yeah, that happened to me actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was 14. Me and my first, So my first...
Not the teacher saying DeShawn was kissing a boy.
Honey, listen. 14, first love, head over heels, okay? And we had the most innocent relationship. Again, I never shy away from the fact that I was exposed to sex early. I was very over sexual when I was younger. And overtly sexual when I was younger. And he was the complete opposite.
Has nothing to do with your orientation, though.
No. It was nothing to do with my orientation. It was just untreated trauma that was manifesting in a child growing up. But he was not at all. When I say not at all, like, he was very clear that, like, that was not going to happen between us. Like, he just loved me as a person, and that's what actually made me believe in love so deeply, because it was the first time at that point in my life where someone actually just loved me for me and not was immediately like trying to do anything or like expect anything, and even was pushing me away from that and trying to just allow me to be. We had a very innocent relationship, right? Outside of, typical, like, oh, we're going to kiss and like that kind of stuff.
So the teacher saw you out and was like,
sorry, my bad. So what happened was we got caught in one of our little stowaway moments kissing by the custodian. He told our music teacher, and our music teacher called our parents and had a meeting that neither one of us knew about and outed us to our parents. And that definitely changed like my life, child. My parents took me out of the art school and sent me to Catholic high school from that and everything, whereas his family embraced him, loved him, and we had two separate lives. We're still very close now, but we just had two very separate lives. So I definitely have always harbored some feelings towards the teacher who did that because of how much it affected my life, and he has no idea that like
Hi, Mr. So-and-so. I hope that you're watching Unbinding.the.binary right now, because here's your former student.
Okay.
And, I mean, here they are in all their glory now in each house, so praise, thank Spirit that you're here and whole and because that... What was it like for you in school after that? Did the kids know? The other kids know that happened to you?
Yeah, he definitely told our friends. And it became...
He told your friends?
Oh, yeah. It was a whole thing. Like, and he pulled, especially his friends, because they were like a really solid group, and it was like, girls and then him. And he told them, and it was like drama, and everybody blamed me. It was a whole thing. It was not a good time for me, I would say. Like, it definitely was not, and I definitely rode that journey alone. But that's what I'm talking about, like, in schools, and like, I'm glad that they amended that bill, because that could have, went way left for me at that age.
Yeah.
But all the trauma I already had been going through that nobody knew about, dealing with. Can you imagine if that could have sent me over the edge?
And that's where I start to think about, who are we really protecting?
Right.
In these situations in schools, where now lawmakers are, getting involved in saying what either the curriculum should be or what the school culture should be, because the first thought should always be about the children.
Right.
Not about, necessarily their families at home. Not to say that that's out of the equation, because it's not. But the bill should be geared toward the protection and the safety and the betterment of the lives of the children.
Right.
And like you said, that situation for you, if you came from maybe even more, stricter environment or household, could have went entirely left for you. You could have been out on the street homeless. You could have been homeless. Anything could have happened to you, And I feel that there's probably been instances where that did happen to a child, and something far worse happened to them. Yeah. So where are lawmakers in protecting, the rights of the children?
They're trying to deter queer people from identifying and saying who they are because they don't want that to be a part of society. I mean, that kind of like leads me into like talking about Disney in a sense, because as much as we love Disney hardcore,
we do, to the point where we filmed a whole episode about our favorite characters and what they meant to us growing up.
And we knew we had to like kind of scratch that.
DeShawn had to convince me because I was like, I just want people to know.
Yeah, and maybe we'll circle back around to that at some point. But I thought it's important for us to because Disney has been in the news a lot lately because of the straddling the fence game that they've played as a company with this bill, and
but pumping money.
Right.
Behind the supporters of the bill.
Right.
Crazy.
And so, with that being said, the CEO has since come out and apologized, sent out a letter of apology about that. And it's just interesting because Disney is so influential in teaching kids everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so, there was apparently the former CEO sent out a letter to the company about not having any kind of same-sex representation in any of the cartoons and Pixar and stuff like that beforehand. There was a whole thing. Juan was telling me earlier today that Luca, I believe is the name of the cartoon, where they had to change some of the animation because the two boys in the animation were affectionate in a platonic way, but because it was showing this same sex affection, they had to alter the cartoon, dumb stuff, which is just so. I don't know. I just we would have so much of a better world if they just let people be. You know what I'm saying? These are things that are just inherently human.
And if they let people be seen.
Yeah, these are things that are just inherently human. They're all part of the human experience. You know what I mean? And so, I guess my frustration with Disney right now is you are one of the leading powers that be. You know what I mean? With animation and bringing families together and telling all these stories.
Media in general.
Yeah, media. Yeah, you're right.
Come on. What is it? What was it? They own. There's this Marvel, but there's other networks outside of animation and I think don't they own portions? I could be wrong. The Discovery Channel.
Oh, National Geographic.
National Geographic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other networks in media that they cover, not just Disney animation. So they're everywhere. They own Disney owns half of the world. Is what I'm really trying to say without saying so that I don't get in trouble. But
they have reach.
Yes,
to make
they
change.
have reach to make change, and they have made a lot of changes, and they have made a lot of strides. But they always straddle the fence, and we would appreciate if we had more support from those powers that be, because they actually could really help to change the world. And I know that a big topic of discussion are their employees. Apparently they have a very large LGBT employee force.
Of course they do.
So of course our stories are eventually going to come out into the works, because you have all of these creative people behind the scenes who are writing scripts and creating. So why wouldn't it be told?
Right. So there actually is a cartoon on Disney Plus called Out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were talking. Tell me about this, because I got to make use of my subscription. Yeah.
So there is.
I'm sharing it with a friend.
Shout out to Irby. You still need to make use of it, but it's cute. It's a short, and it's an interracial gay couple, and they are the white one is bringing his partner home to his parents and is afraid to tell them that he's gay, and he's trying to hide it. And I forget exactly what it was. I don't know if it was like a picture that he kept trying to hide, and the picture kept popping out. It was like a whole thing. And I don't want to ruin it for you because it's just short, but it's cute. But that's what it's about, basically, about him being afraid to come out to his family. And it was just like, it was such a shock when I read about it. Like, what? I gotta go watch this. And I watched it and I was just like, wow, this is actually like really cool.
I'm trying to turn it off from my mind right now because this is also reminding me of, did you see the new Medea movie?
Homecoming?
Is that what it's called?
On Netflix?
Yeah, where the nephew, I think he's Medea's nephew, comes home and he wants to come out to his family. But the family, child, you gotta watch it.
That's the premise? I didn't know that. Oh, I definitely gotta watch it. Okay. Anyway.
So, but the excitement, right? You see how we're lighting up behind this? It's like, even though it's well overdue, these are in the slightest way healing. Mm-hmm. Because it's giving visibility to stories of people who can identify and can relate, whether they are the queer person or the family of the queer person,
right?
Right. The mothers, the fathers, the siblings, aunts and uncles. Like it's not just something that affects the person of that experience, and that's the thing that I think that we fail to realize a lot of times is that we are still all in this together. Mm-hmm. So that's great that they have that segment. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely gonna watch that.
Yeah, you should. It's really cute. It's really
Out.
Cute.
It's called Out.
Mm-hmm.
That's cute.
And are you familiar with Steven Universe is in Disney?
We are so here because I was thinking about Steven Universe the whole time. I mean, and that's Nickelodeon, but again, segment of
or Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah, it is Cartoon Network. I'm sorry, wrong network. I love Steven Universe.
Yeah.
And I think that Steven Universe is a great example. Let me know if how they address gender and romance.
Brilliant.
From almost like a neutral standpoint. Like, that it's there, but it's not a highlight. It's not so in your face. It's just like, oh, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So the story of... I remember watching Garnet's story, and when it was revealed that Garnet was this fusion of Ruby and Sapphire, and at first, because I was so in disbelief, I was like, wait a minute, are these definitely two female presenting characters? Like, I was just like, get the out of here, like, are y'all kidding me? Y'all did that because it was done so well, and Ruby and Sapphire's love for each other was so real, and it was not over sexualized. It wasn't about sex at all. It was just the genuine love and connection that they have for each other.
And it gives you that duality of masculine and femininity as well. It's very
clear.
They were
both extreme. Yeah.
One is red, one is blue. I love, shout out to Steven Universe and Cartoon Network, and kudos for you guys for creating, and allowing, I forget the name of do you know the creator's name of
Rebecca Sugar?
That platform to create such a beautiful, progressive animated series.
Yeah, and I read somewhere in one of the backstories, the backstory behind the gems is that though they present female, they're not people, they're gemstones. And the reason they present female is because when they came to Earth, that was the first form that they saw. So they chose that form as the first form, to present. And so that's why they all present as women, but they're not people. So their sexuality and gender does not matter because they're not people. And I was like, you gotta work. Like, this is so... it's so good. It's so good. But you're right. That's a prime example of teaching a child, because it's done from a perspective of empathy as opposed to sex. And that is just... that's the perfect way to help people understand. Because I'm an adult and I was watching it like tapped in, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And the music and everything about it is just... It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, there are some tools out there that parents can use and tap into. If anyone out, whoever's listening out there, and you're a parent and you're looking for content, some of these things that we're mentioning are great ways or gateways to conversation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, Disney has the ability to create an incredible story that can help everyone on a spectrum if they spend the time to actually do it. Like, because a lot of times, I will say that a lot of times, with the exception of Steven Universe was the first time I saw a more feminine, same gender loving story presented in a way, because it's very male presenting centric in a lot of ways. Even the story that's the cartoon that's on Disney Plus out, too male presenting. You know what I mean? So it would be nice to see a story that is presented that kind of encapsulates every spectrum of it all, for both feminine and masculine presenting ways. And they have the power to do it, and I'm sure they have the creatives that are back there trying to do it. But what am I trying to say? Like, how it's a risk. But you have the power to take the risk, so why not take the risk? You're Disney. At the end of the day, you're not anybody that tries to boycott Disney at this point for something like that, you would be lost in the sauce. So go ahead and take the risk and be a part of moving the narrative forward, as opposed to, we're gonna, not do anything or not say anything, or be cautious about how. No, just you have do it. It's fine. Stop playing.
And it will definitely, because I know we're always thinking about numbers and statistics and sales. It will definitely sell. You know what I mean?
Disney has a whole gay day at their park. And come Pride Month, we're going to see Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse in their little rainbow outfits somewhere on 5th in a parade.
See, I didn't really know about that until now. I had just heard about that. And it's just, so it's well, why were they, in regards to this bill in particular, so supportive to some of these lawmakers? You know what I mean?
Money. It was I guess, because correct me if I'm wrong, was it that Disney was receiving funding from some of these people, or they were funding some of these people?
I think it was that they were funding some of these people. They were funding. Right? Mm-hmm.
Now they were.
That's why. So that's what's causing all of the uproar, because people want to know why.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So why were they funding them based on other things, or were they funding them? Was it a situation where the person says, I'm against this bill, or I'm against gay people, and they didn't know that, and they were already funding them, or was this person's stance already there, and they were funding them, from the get go?
It could be that. It could be that.
You can speak up.
They generally fund multiple politicians.
Okay.
Across the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
To have influence across the middle spectrum.
Across the middle spectrum. That was one, y'all. Chiming in.
Chiming in and helping us here.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Right, to fund their campaigns, right? Or to help promote the bill being passed.
It's not about any one specific bill. I think it's about they generally fund politicians so that they are favorable to them in return.
Mm-hmm.
But then in instances like this, when they're funding both sides of an issue, you're basically contributing to one side,
right,
having the means to pursue these type of things.
Right.
And see, that's the problem. So you gotta pick a side, boo.
We have a problem.
Pick a side, or just help. If you're not gonna pick a side, help be a part of the conversation that pushes things forward, as opposed to the one that keeps things oppressed. And teach. This is the moment to teach. Okay, I'm funding you to but let me teach you. And if not, then I'm gonna pull my funding and move on. You know what I mean? But it's for a company like Disney to even have any sort of anti-LGBT anything and have the biggest following of queer people, is just stupid. It just makes no sense to me. the gays make Disney, honey. Like, they're, you know what I mean? Like, how many? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
At all. One thing I am thinking about, like, you know, we just realized that parts of the bill had been amended. So, you know, we don't know if the funding came before or after the amendment, you know. Because I'm pretty sure it takes a long time for it to get passed, you know, in the House and then, you know, get signed off. So, it's so murky. Like, I don't like these murky waters.
It would be so nice to not have to think about any of these stuff. The fact that we have to argue these points and, like, still hope for a better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't we just have a better today? Like, why, you know what I'm saying? Like, why, like, this is so... I read the news and I'm just always like, why are we here? Like, what is going on? Like, why can't we just?
And it just makes you think about the name of our country, like the United States. How united are we?
Oh, girl.
How united? Like,
we've never been.
Yeah.
That we can't. That's a whole other.
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying, and like in 2020, like we're still here. Mm-hmm. Like we are still here and focused on the wrong things.
Right. Y'all so worried about trying to police somebody's gender and sexuality, and people still not like fed. People still struggling, and we still dealing with people losing business and stuff like that from COVID. Still recovering. We still got student loan debt. That's crazy. But you want to be so hard, you know, on policing somebody's gender and identity, and just mind your damn business.
Period.
Right.
Just mind your business at this point.
Right. So, well, let's go ahead and take a little pause, mm-hmm. And we'll be right back.
The Oracle Shop is a metaphysical boutique located in the heart of Bushwick, Brooklyn. 164 Wilson, Brooklyn, New York, 11237. The Oracle Shop.
And we are back.
We're here. We're queer. Still queer.
So, we like to, you know, wrap things in a more positive note.
Yeah, how can we heal? How can we bridge the gap and offer advice or pointers to anybody out there, parents who might be listening, educators, lawmakers?
I think one of the best ways to do that is to talk. And it's corny. I mean, I know it sounds like corny and simple, but I think if you open conversations with queer people and have queer people in these rooms to talk about why these things are important based on their own experiences, and mm-hmm. I think that can open up people's minds to understand why it's important. You know what I mean?
They actually, see, this is why I gotta take notes. I think there is a governor. There was someone in the realm of politics, mm-hmm. or possibly even like a police commissioner, mm-hmm. who is like the first openly gay, like something of another, who was explaining the importance of inclusivity, and like it just kind of fell on deaf ears. I know that specifically there was a Fort Lauderdale police commissioner. He was like the first openly gay police commissioner who came in and like looked at the wall and was like, there's not enough color on this wall. And so he was
he got in trouble for that.
He got in trouble. Well, I think I don't know if they tried to terminated him or something,
because he chose to put people of color first in the hiring.
People of color first in the hiring, and they were like, can't do that. But I also think that there was a politician who was openly gay as well, and who was speaking about, why it would be important. But I think, like you said, having the conversation is one of the greatest standpoints, and I think that schools should be, more so in collaboration, especially, you know, age appropriate, right? So I personally think high school.
Mm-hmm.
I think high school is a great starting point to possibly talk about these things with, you know, with students about identity and you know, orientation, sexual orientation, and all of these things. And maybe there should be a collaboration between GSAs and PTAs, to where parents and teachers have parents and students have an opportunity to speak within the walls of the school.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
And then, you know, invite your local politicians to sit down and speak about what kids need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because again, I firsthand, after attending, you know, to speak with the GSA of my former high school, I got to see firsthand, like, wow, like, kids want to talk about these things. And I'm quite sure that it's not just in New York City. It's probably less here than it is in other places where maybe the states are a little bit more red, or, you know, what have you, where they feel that not only in their families but their neighborhood they may feel isolated or alone or unsupported.
Right. And they act like social media doesn't exist. These kids are finding out what they need to know. And
they TikToking and bopping.
Okay, you're finding it everywhere, so you might as well like talk about it in some way to help them understand.
Yeah.
100%. That's the best way. I feel like.
Yeah, and then take it from there, because the future starts now, you know, and time, although as we've talked about here on Unbinding.the.binary, is illusion, it's like, it's still moving, and history is being written as we speak. So when it comes to U.S. history and world history, LGBT people are making a lot of strides in not only socially but politically. And I think to leave that out of the discussion is leaving out history, period.
Of course. 100%.
So are you gonna leave out pictures of the pieces of the picture to continue to dumb our children down? I think that leaving this stuff out of schools is dumbing our children down, period. Like, there's no other explanation to it.
Yeah. Fully agree.
And it's perpetuating self-hate. Because now it's like, well, the adults in my life believe that this is something that's not even important enough to be celebrated and understood in schools. So this must not be something that's good for me.
Suicide rate goes up. Bullying goes up. All these things,
Dropout.
Yep.
All of that.
Yep. So it's important. So
Talk
chit chat. Talk. So, well, we gotta wrap it up for today.
Yes.
We will keep going on and on and on about this, and I'm sure it will come back up in other topics.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an ongoing issue, so it's gonna come up all the time. But yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in with us today.
As always.
So be sure to go to our website at www.unbinding.the.binary.com. All of our links are there to our socials. You can email us if you want to be on the show or have like ideas of things that you want us to talk about or anything else.
Yeah, talk to us. Talk to us. We're opening up the floor for conversation.
Like, please. So yeah, that's it for today. But we definitely will touch back on this because it's a weighted conversation, and as we're talking, I'm like,
this goes so many ways.
Yeah, so many ways. It's like, so we will be back on this at some point. But for now, that's it.
Until next time.
See y'all later.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at unbinding.the.binary. Email us at unbinding.the.binary.podcast@gmail.com.